Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
The list of famous tracks we've been visiting continues to mount. Suzuka and Spa carry plenty of weight, but Interlagos has been the scene of amazing drama and racing history. Wheeling these GT4s around here will be a recipe for action as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Pro Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Kenneth Bueno. Cameron Abernon is on social media with Ryan Bauer producing while he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at 4Porsche.com or follow at Porsche Exchange on Instagram. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. Well, Kenneth, we are here at Interlagos, and as we saw from last night, this place puts on a good show.
Yeah, this place might just be known as an absolute banger of a track here in Brazil. 2.676 miles, and it's a mix of both worlds, really. You talk about long straights in that first sector after turns 1 and 2, known as the Sena S, and then you go to Curva do Sol and then Reta Oposta after that long straight, hard braking zone, and then you get into a really windy second sector that leads you off of Juncao, and then Subida dos Boxes, which is that long straight that leads you to the pit entry and to that start-finish line. And with these GT4s on display here tonight, Joe, with this 15-turn GP layout track out in Sao Paulo, Brazil, means that we might have a lot of drafting, but a lot of strategic play in the middle of the corners and a lot of technicalities too.
Yeah, that is for sure. Now, what's interesting is if we take a look at the championship, well, we're missing a few people. Wyatt Good and Trey Drawhorn, both not here. Rafael Amorim is, and he definitely needs us to try and catch up some points because he's missed the last 2 races, so he basically can't drop anymore. Chris Pye's also not here, but we do have Jesse Lyon, and from there, it's a bit of more of a jump down to Derek Cyphers, who's also not around, but Chris Braun is, so he's looking to try and make up some points. Also missing Banjapaje and Sang out here today. So it might be a bit of a small field, but this is going to be an important race for our drivers that have managed to show up for this one. Also, before we get to the racing, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add PCA Sim Racing. So we're just finishing up the last of qualifying. There's about a minute left, but I only see a couple drivers out on track, and I think most of them have taken all 4 of their laps of those that I see out there right now. So it's looking like Jesse Lyon, who is likely to be on our pole in the end. And it was close for a while, but it looks like he has separated it. Just double checking to see if anybody's finishing a lap, and it looks like no, nobody is finishing a lap here. So the grid is indeed set. And Lyon on the pole is going to be followed by Leif Peterson by about 0.2 of a second. But from there on down, 4 thousandths to Rafael Amorim in third. Justin Sang, only 3 more hundredths behind him in P4. So top 4 split by 1/4 of a second. Logan Grotto back there will start from 5th as Chris Braun will start from P6. Then it's going to be Nick Facciolo in 7th and Ryan Cowley in 8th. After that, you get down to Mark Nistor in P9, and Patty Patterson will round out your top 10.
Rolling off in 11th will be the number 4 of Thomas Briggs, and then P12, Enrico Gregorato starting with a 140 flat and a 771 machine. Robert Rose is 13th, 14th alongside is Andy Jenks in the number 13 car. Rich Minkler with his time good enough for the top 15. Eon Simon in the number 87 is 16th, and Dale Green in the 250 will bring up the rear of the field. And surprisingly enough, Joe, a rather small field based off what we've seen in this class, so only 17 cars tonight from Interlagos.
40 drivers have run a race so far in Series 10 here in the Pro class. So yeah, this is going to be a big opportunity for a number of drivers to make up some good points here today. Maybe those who were struggling against some of the quicker ones can try and steal themselves a victory. We'll see in just a bit as they're waiting to take off on the pace lap here. It's looking like pretty good conditions, honestly. 82 Fahrenheit. It got as high as, I believe, the low 90s last night. So this is going to be a little bit cooler than what we saw last time, Kenny. The question is, who's going to be able to use that grip to their advantage?
Yeah, that's true. And when you've got a lesser track temp, I think everyone takes that as a win. You know, you have that opportunity to be like, hey, all right, maybe I'm not going to be slipping and sliding all over the place, but you also don't want to treat this Interlagos track like you can't respect it, because you do have to. There's a lot of interesting corners here at this track. There's a lot of places that you really have to mind for. So just keep in mind here, although there's less track temp and it's not as hot as it used to be last night, the challenges are still going to be present nonetheless.
Let's not forget, we heard our winning driver last night mention that he took 2 tires, and that helped him out towards the end of the race. So who else will find implementing that helps them out? They don't have enough fuel, I don't think, to be able to take all 4. So will anybody try and take a slightly unbalanced car to try and just get a little bit more grip out there towards the end of the race and help them pick up pace as you see them head out of the Ducksbill and towards the last few corners here? Then it's the long climb up towards Subidos Dos Boxes, and we are on our way for 60 minutes here. And let's not forget, this is the Pro class. This is the cream of the crop here, Kenny. So this is going to be hard to find an edge, I'm sure.
Yeah, it really is. And based off of what I've heard from last night's activities, where we had 3 wide in some cases, a lot of great competition at the front of the field, who knows, with these drivers and missing our top 2 in point standings, you know, guys like Jesse Lyon and Rafael Amorim, they're going to take advantage, and this race is going to be as competitive as ever.
All right, they're coming up to that pit entry. You'll see the pace car peel away, and then all of these Porsche Caymans will be left to wait for Barney to give them the signal. Here we go. There goes the pace car up past that pit entry, and there it is. Green flag is out as they all start accelerating down towards the Senna S. We had 4 wide at the start of the last race. Will we get the same here? It was clean last time as well. That's another big question mark as they head into the drop down the chicane. So far, so good. A little bit of 3 wide, but what looks like a very patient start here, Kenny.
Yeah, very patient. A lot of the field filtering out through the Senna S. Now they make their way through the Curva do Sol onto Reta Oposta, the long straightaway before you get to one of the many passing opportunities here at Interlagos, Joe. This entrance into the Descida do Lago here. Very hard braking left-hander, side by side for 7th. That looks to be Ryan Cowley, Nick Facciolo. Really solid, clean racing early on.
Yeah, they're getting single file pretty quickly, so this one's looking good as now they head down into the horseshoe. Someone down there to the inside looking for a position. That looks to be Thomas Briggs, who's got himself up 2 into P9. Otherwise, it once again is going to go right back to single file pretty much through the entire field now that they hit the infield section.
Yeah, this is a very windy section of the course, so you really want to avoid mistakes. And part of that, Joe, is not going side by side. And on this first lap, you really want to just figure out where your car is putting itself in these corners and where you're going to drive this track, how you're going to drive this track for the rest of the race. And they go a little bit wide off through that curve, but that's by design to make it through Runcao and then get off of the final corner, Subida dos Boxes, onto the final straightaway here to complete lap number 1. So everyone not necessarily going single file, but that's on purpose. Everyone just wants to settle in on this first lap, get a little bit comfortable with the track and this car's setup, and see how to move forward from there.
Finally had our first issue. It was Rich Minkler and Ian Simon coming together. Simon's already in pit lane, so wonder if I don't think he had enough time to drive it there. He must have taken a toes. We got a battle side by side coming into turn one between Sang and Grotto, but Grotto does not have the speed coming out of the Senna S. In fact, he's now vulnerable. Here comes Chris Braun.
And Chris Braun in this mix as well. Braun finished in the top 6, by the way, Joe. Once we got over the last race at Circuit Spa Francorchamps, Justin Sang with a poor outing there. Unfortunately, finished back in 21st, and in a tight battle here right now with Logan Grotto. Chris Braun they make a bit of contact coming through the corners. Justin Sang just looking to pull away, and they'll end up single file again. But part of racing with these GT4 shows involves a lot of drafting. These cars don't have that much power, and they can easily draft behind another. So if you're Logan Grotto and Chris Braun right now, just using draft to your advantage, and the same could be said for Ryan Cowley just hanging around in 7th.
Yeah, watching here from his perspective, he was just behind that battle where, honestly, Grotto really shut the door on Chris there coming into the lake descent. So as they come down into Bica de Pato, they once again get the cars woed up down through that little bit of banking and then switch back, plunging down the hill towards the junction. Everybody looking to try to get as big of a launch as they can, and they'll need it because honestly, up at the front, Rafael Amorim has dropped off to more than a second behind Lion, and it's looking like he's starting to pull away.
Yeah, Lion is kind of in a league of his own right now, and Lion just working off of, Joe, the immense momentum that he picked up in race number 4 at Spa. It was just an unbelievable pickup where he got into an incident in the first chicane on the first lap and was in the back of the field for a majority of the race, and then somehow found a way all the way to the front. Obviously didn't win that race, but he finished inside the top 5 or so. And it was an unbelievable race for that number 115, and it looks like tonight, with the 2 heavy titans of the point standings not in this race, he's taking advantage as much as possible and trying to overstep guys like Christopher Pais and even Rafael Amorim in points.
Yeah, it really needs it here. We check in on Mark Nistor, who came in a little late on the practice, but doesn't seem to be bothering him as he started in 9th, although he is down 1 spot from where he gridded up. That is the car of Vacciolo just in front of him in the white and yellow, coming down into the horseshoe once again, not nearly close enough to try and make an attack this time. Very counter to what we saw in the club race last night, where there was just constant fighting. These drivers looked very tame.
They seem to be really calm right now, and I think part of that also is, Joe, just the lack of drivers. Only 17 tonight, now 16, as unfortunately Ian Simon has parked the car after the incident early on in tonight's race. It's just kind of a matter of hanging on and just seeing what happens here. Maybe they just want this race to go as cleanly as possible. They don't want to take risks throughout some of the corners here at Interlagos, and so pretty relaxed racing, and looking nice to look on board with Mark Nistor just lining up the rear end of the top 10. Nick Vacciolo right in front of him, and this is a nice place here out for the final quarter. So be the Los Boxes, Joe, where you can really get the draft off the car in front of you, make a move toward turn 1, but just a little bit too far behind Nistor is, so he'll just tuck in line and wait for the rest of the track to come about.
Yeah, we saw last night they need to be relatively close to get that pull coming off of the junction. So it's not going to do it this time. Down into the Senna S once again, still chasing. They've also got Briggs in that bright highlighter yellow number 4 in front of them. They're trying to keep touch with as we see them weave through that first chicane. Here we ride on board with Thomas, now up 3 positions. Actually has gained more than anybody else on the track currently.
And he's been on the move so far. Briggs started just outside of the top 10, so a pretty decent outing so far in the first 4 laps. And that's really good, Joe, as well, to make decent progress and have that little by little gradual move up through the field, because you're not necessarily overstepping, you're not pushing yourself all too hard, you're just letting the race take its course and letting your pace determine where you'll be. And for Briggs right now, it seems like his pace is really quick, now starting to catch up on Ryan Cowley, and could end up on this, what I would call a quartet battle for around the top 5, where they were all catching up to Justin Sang in the 188. So nice move up through the field by Briggs so far. We'll see if he can hold on to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've still got a long race to go, so maybe everybody just kind of biding their time for now, letting the race unfold. Watching from the back of Cowley here on Thomas Briggs, trying to play catch up. Let's see what kind of exit he gets off of the junction and climbing up the hill past Water Tower. Does look like Vacciolo was able to keep Nistor at bay. but I'm seeing Gregorado going slow behind them on the timing tower. I think he had an off there on that final left-hander, and I think he may have actually hit the wall.
Yeah, it was Hunkao where he just got the grass and just slid through it and unfortunately could not escape the guardrails on the outside. Now, the good news, Joe, is that he's not fully damaged to the point where his car is unusable or undrivable. And right here, just gets a little bit too wide. There's not a lot of asphalt nor curbing to save the grip side of things and just kind of pancakes it on the right side of the car on that guardrail. So that's all that lost time, but I think he should be okay. The damage not necessarily all too tough for him, but he's now under fire from Andy Jenks and he'll drop to 13th.
Emmeram starting to look like he might be responding a little bit to Jesse Lyon. Remember, it was about 1.3 seconds earlier. It's down about 0.8 of a second now. So he's cut it slightly, just keeping him in check at this stage. They have also started to drop Leif Peterson, who's about 1.7 seconds behind them, looking like a bit of a two-car breakaway, but currently also something of a stalemate unless Raphael can continue to chip away.
Yeah, that's true. And for Peterson, even then for Justin Sang, who's hanging not too far behind in P4. You see him there in the shot, just come up behind that 913. If Emmeram starts closing in on Lyon, they start to battle corner by corner. Peterson and Sang, that gap is going to start to close in, and we might just have 4 cars in the mix for the race lead. So here's a look from Justin Sang out of the Golden Gate region. Obviously, like we talked about, Joe, just a tough outing at Spa just a couple of weeks back. So tonight, looking for a turnaround and one that should help him in the point standings, as he's P9 right now in that group.
Absolutely, the 188 hunting on Leif Peterson here, but he's about 5 car lengths behind. That's not going to do it into the first turn, so he'll just take the natural racing line. A little bit tighter, though, down to the apex there for that 188. Is that going to help him? It's at about 0.3 of a second, and they're coming out of Curva do Sol. Let's see what he's got as they now head down the Reta Aposta.
Just one of those opportunities here, Joe, to make a pass, long straightaway, and then a hard-braking left-hander, and you've got enough space to make a move. It just looks like Sang not too close to make a move on the inside, and they're slowly catching up and bringing Logan Grotto with them in the number 12, so we may just see a 3-car fight for P3 before this is all said and done. But Sang definitely has been faster, and by a long shot. Last time they crossed the line, Sang was better by about 0.6 of a second. 139.1 for Sang, and Peterson with a 139.7. So this 188 is really starting to pick up the pace and just waiting for that opportunity to come about. Not in this windy section where it can be really hard to make passes, but he'll find it at some point, maybe out of the final corner, and could make a nice run for turn 1.
That's a good catch there on Sang. I didn't realize he was outpacing Peterson that much. And this, let's see what this lap looks like between them. Like I said, about 0.3 of a second still as they come into the final real braking zone, trying to open that up as much as they can to launch here towards the water tower. He's got him almost down to 0.2 of a second now. It does look like he's continuing to gain, probably feeling the effects of that slipstream. They get ready to cross the timing line here. This lap, Leif Peterson clocks in a 139.8, Sang with a 139.6. That's another 0.3 off.
And look at how Peterson is playing defense there in turn 1. A little bit of a lower arc compared to Sang, who just really opened it up close to the grass and then tried to get the best exit out of turn 1 in the Senna S, but unfortunately did not work, and Sang is just holding back. And all this while, Joe, that's going to bring in Logan Grotto. Every lap that Sang is unable to get by Peterson despite being much faster on the lap time, it's going to bring in Grotto. And despite his pace not necessarily being as quick in some times, but right now it seems to be working as these two continue to hold each other up, because last time it was a 139.515. Grotto was there and just could make some problems happen here for Sang, where he has to play offense and defense at the same time.
That is going to make life complicated for the 188 car, that is for sure. Does look like it's stacking up a bit. Not sure if Peterson is truly lacking the pace, or it goes back to what I mentioned before of trying to preserve some of the tires a little bit, with it being such a twisty and technical track, needing as much grip as you can throughout a 60-minute event. As they come down towards the junction once more, Sang falling back a little bit this time, but what does this left-hander hold for the trio?
We'll see what happens. Grotto is there, so he might just be well within half a second to get some of the draft off with a 188. But if we're saying, Joe, you need to make this pass happen now, especially if you're as quick as you are, because you can probably catch up to Amarim and Lion if you stay on pace with them. But if you can't get by this 913, the frustrations are only going to start to grow. And for saying he might end up in a situation where he has to really push the car, and this time reflective of that, just a little bit slower. But a huge dive in turn one gets him right to the back bumper, but I think it's just a little bit loose on the rear end of the race car. Saw some tire marks come out of that, and Sang unable to make the pass again.
No, not quite there. That was a lot slower for Sang. His first lap in the 140 since the very first lap of this race for him. So definitely struggling now that he's gotten into the wake of that 913. Can he do anything to finally get by that blue and white car? Also, you mentioned trying to catch up to Lion and Amarim. Well, they're actually running low 39s, 39.2 for the last lap for Jesse Lion. He's running an incredible pace compared to the rest of the field.
He's actually flying right now, and Amarim really far behind at a 139.655, which was reflective of the laps that we saw out of Peterson and Sang not too long ago. But the Lion just continues to open that up, and we saw how he fell back though a little bit earlier in that run where Amarim kind of closed in within a second or so, and now it's opened up to almost a second and a half. So maybe Lion was just holding on to his tires, waiting to use them for later in the run, or maybe Amarim is just starting to make mistakes as he's getting closer. He wants to close in the gap further, but he's only just hurting himself in the process as this three-car train continues to run single file. We're bound to see a move at some point.
Yeah, I mentioned it was the cream of the crop, and man, it's looking hard to make them get mistakes out of these GT4s. Everybody is bound and determined not to do anything that could put them at risk here. And so far, Sang is maybe feeling a little bit of frustration out of that. Eventually, he'll want to try and get past, like you mentioned, especially with Logan still kind of hovering in the background. No move once again, down into turn one. And as they exit down the hill, yeah, not seeing anybody really close enough to try something unless they're incredibly eager.
And for Sang right now, I'm seeing, Joe, a great braking entry into turn one. But the only problem is he just cannot complete and execute on the exit. Once you come out of that Senna S turn two, looks like he just kind of stagnates at around 1 to 2/10 of a second as we look on board with the Golden Gate region driver of Logan Grotto holding up the top five as it stands and still looking at the two cars right in front of him. Sang has just not been able to take advantage of the opportunities on corner exit. Corner entry is really where his strong suit is, and you'll see here in this right-hander and Pico de Pato, rather, got that completely mixed up. I think this S is to Pinheiro actually, just a couple of corners before that, but nonetheless, Sang better on entry, just not as efficient on the exit.
I mean, you're still pronouncing them better than I am, so.
It's duckbill in Portuguese, almost similar to Spanish.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Pico de Pato, it just kind of sounds a little bit weird with the pronunciation.
That's why I default to the English translations a lot of times. But meanwhile, yeah, Logan getting a little dangerously close at times here to Justin Sang. That was a poor exit coming off of the junction. And Leif Peterson might not have had the best of exits, so Justin might finally get his opportunity. And you can see him just wanting to like edge the car forward, trying to sit farther up in his seat to see if he can try and get close enough to attack. Let's see if he does it here into the braking. No, he took a little peek into the lake descent last time though, Kenny, so he's definitely been poking and prodding recently.
He's trying. He's giving him warning signs and saying, hey, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And I'm sure Peterson knows that. But Peterson's like, if I keep this brick wall up and you can't break through it, what are you going to do? Like, well, what's going to happen here? And Logan Grotto has just been kind of hanging around here. He's not really pushing the issue. Cool. Now he will, though. Huge dive into Descida do Lago, and will find a way to the bottom. So Leif Peterson can kind of have an exhale, a breath of relief. But at that point, Grotto just could not stay there on the inside. But that's a big, big move.
Good defense there from Justin to hold him back. Just opening the car up a little bit, leaving him the space. Thomas Briggs, in the meantime, back here in P8. He is in quite a train. This is a lot worse than what Peterson has going on. Ryan Cowley has Braun, Briggs, Facciolo, Nistor, all behind him.
It's 5 cars total. A bit of a mistake there by Briggs. Just caught the grass. Now here comes Facciolo. 717 to the outside. Maybe a potential crossover. It doesn't look for it, so Facciolo stays behind, but that was a crucial mistake there by Briggs. And you'll notice that here as well, Joe, as we lap around Interlagos, lap by lap by lap, is the minimal runoff on a lot of these corners. You're only seeing some curbing and then just straight up grass. Like right here, we saw one of the drivers in Enrico Gregorato get around and have a problem there just because you just catch the grass. That car loses all sorts of grip, and there's nothing you could do but just hold on and hope that it sticks and hope that you can get out of any tire walls or any barriers in that case. So, I mean, there's a lot of runoff that's not there here at Interlagos. A small margin of error, and look at Cowley right here with Brown trying to defend all that he can in turn one.
Oh, but he got a bad exit. Here comes Briggs once again. Braun just seeing if he could hold him behind. Took the inside line away from him down through the Curva de Sol. But he's got the door open a little bit here. Both Briggs and Facciolo taking a big look down to the inside. Briggs trying to take that apex away, but no dice.
Briggs tried it. He's close, though, so he's got the draft just a little bit. He might be able to take advantage of this right-hander. Facciolo's going to give him some drafting help for a moment. Briggs on the inside. Facciolo to fill the space. And right here, Briggs will have the nose on the bottom. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. This corner is going to be in his favor.
Braun just left the door open there, and he is going to live to regret that one, maybe. Oh, he's got the inside into Pinarino, almost edging his competitor out a little bit, but I think they managed not to touch as we ride on board with Nick, watching them both, and he tries not to get into the back of him now. Very close racing. There's a touch, though, down through the duckspill.
Yeah, right there, contact as Chris Brown had a moment there with Facciolo. And remember how I mentioned earlier in the show, Joe, that Thomas Briggs was just letting the race come to him and not being over pushy? Well, now he's having to work way harder to gain these spots near the front of the field, and it's a decent gap back to Ryan Cowley. So I think Cowley thanking his lucky stars. They started this battle. Facciolo here trying to pick up P8 here if he can get the draft off of Brown, heading to the Senna S and turn one. It's only going to be a matter of time, but so far they have settled things out. The drama rests for now.
Yeah, Braun, the only one to lose a position in that fighting. And it's looking like, yeah, like we said, one little mistake is going to cost you, unfortunately. Mark Nistor is in pit lane, and I think this might be scheduled. If so, it's a very, very early stop, way earlier than anything we saw with the club racing.
Yeah, this is earlier than halfway in the race, so Nistor, I think here, Joe, just wants to get this strategy over with. Really doesn't want to do anything crazy right now. And is just going to come out of pit road without a problem, but he's going to drop all the way back to 16. So yeah, interesting enough how early he came in for the stall. And maybe we'll see if it works on this massive undercut, but based on the fact that everyone else has stayed out, I'm not sure if that's going to work out to plan.
We'll see what happens with this group, because this is who he was behind before that pit stop. So maybe this will wind up being a good call. We just don't know yet. It'll kind of depend on how hard these cars fight with one another as we carry on only on lap 12. And there you can see, with so few cars out there, the 17 is just pretty much all on his own with clear track all around.
Yeah, that 17 has no draft and no help from anyone. He's going to have to hope that people pit soon, or that his pit call early is enough to gain an advantage, at least in this run. He needs to pick off a lot of time, as here's Braun right behind. Still Thomas Briggs. We saw this battle pretty much come to its climax about a lap and a half ago, or maybe 2 laps ago, but it is still not over yet. This is a really nice run out of the final corner. So we have those boxes and got the draft here. Going to look to the outside in turn 1. Will he have the nose? Yes, for a moment he's going to make contact to the rear end of the 4, but Briggs is going to hold the fort.
Nice stuff between them. Close racing that we're seeing behind. Don't forget about Nick in the 717. So this could all erupt in just a moment and give him 2 spots if he keeps himself close enough as they get ready for the braking down for 4. And once again, pretty late there for Braun, but not close enough to actually get to that bumper this time. Haven't seen a whole lot of position changes elsewhere. I know we've been watching this battle for a bit now, but everything's been pretty stationary as we watch from Sang once again. This is just a little farther up the road in the battle for 3rd place. Nothing has swapped around with these drivers, and in fact they've continued to lose to the top 2. It's now about 4 seconds of a gap between P2 and P3.
Yeah, and as they continue to battle, that gap is only going to start growing further until pit stops, where an alternative strategy might be the key for some of these guys who are so far back. But right now, with raw pace on the racetrack and how these battles have formatted, is here's a great exit out of the final corner by Justin Sang, so we might see a pass after all for the last step of the podium. Their gap to the top two are really only going to continue to grow, and it's going to be a matter of pit strategy to overcome the dominant top two tonight. Sang going to use the draft to get to the outside in turn one. We've seen how good Sang has been on the braking for the first corner. He's going to outbrake Peterson by a large margin, but can Peterson hold the bottom? No, he can't, Joe. That's a textbook pass for third.
Around the outside, nicely done by Justin. That's going to get him P3, but Peterson did not fall off quickly. He's still close enough. He could try and fight back. Let's see what happens here as they get ready for the braking for the late descent. We're on board with the car behind them, Logan Grotto, who instead is going to be the one to gain under braking and gets right up to that rear wing of Leif Peterson, trying to see if he could demote him another spot.
Oh, remember, we saw Grotto make a move in that similar corner to Sang, although it just wasn't successful. He tried again here on Peterson. It's just kind of little taps and little stuff like that that just lets drivers know, hey, I'm here, and you can force the driver in front to make a mistake in the braking zone. For Grotto, though, it just really hasn't worked in his favor, but he's there, so if he can take opportunity, and it's a nice exit here inside the windy section of the course at Interlagos by Peterson. So this fight is not necessarily quite over. Sang has the spot, but Peterson wants it back.
Yeah, Leif is dangerously close here. All he needs is a decent exit. He could try and fight back into the Senna S once again. What's he got underneath him? Didn't look all that great. Sang puts himself just about at arm's length, and he looks in the mirror just to double check and probably breathes a sigh of relief there.
Yeah, he knows he's got some clear air, at least for now, and some distance here. Not enough distance nor momentum for Peterson to grab the draft and make a move into turn one like Sang did to Peterson about a lap ago, and neither does Grotto. So they're all just kind of stagnating in that three-car train. And once more, Sang is better on the braking zone in turn one, so it leaves him that opportunity to open up the gap. As here's Nick Facciolo here looking on the outside of Chris Braun. This is a battle for P8. And that outside lane, not usable for Facciolo, can't quite complete the pass. And here comes Braun here looking on Briggs.
Oh man, he turned a bad situation into a good one as Briggs is forced to go defensive down the Retta Aposta. Can he keep him back? We've seen that outside prove a little difficult at times to make the overtake with the way the camber goes off, and indeed, he gets fed out to the edge of the track.
Oh, that was close there for Briggs. He slid up right in front of that 258. And that would have been really close. And they're also slowly bringing in Paddy Patterson into 29. Haven't talked much about Paddy, who started this race in 10th, and that's exactly where Patterson is right now. But as these three continue to battle, Patterson is getting closer and closer. So once again, we might just see another four-car train in the mix here at Interlagos at around the top 10.
Started to see a little bit of desperation out of Chris there. He stuck his nose into the Pinarino. Not sure if he really meant it to be a move, but thankfully the two did not make contact. So Thomas Briggs has got to watch out here. He might have a little bit of an anxious number 258 car just behind him. Here we go, coming off of the junction. Ooh, this is looking pretty decent actually for Chris Braun. Here we go. Is this going to erupt once again into turn one?
And we saw that bobble there off of Huncao by Thomas Briggs. Just hopped on the curves and lost all that momentum. Here's the draft by Chris Braun looking to the outside. They almost make contact there. And it looks like that could have been disastrous, but Braun is there on the outside. Facciolo here, the third party to watch into turn one. Briggs a little bit too deep. Here comes Braun with a crossover.
But it switches back. He's got to keep the momentum up. Both of them are going to be a little bit slow. Good respect given. Nick has no place to go. He's going to try and throw his hat in with whoever gets the edge, and that looks like it's going to be Braun. He gets right up to that bumper. He's going to make it 3 wide now as they go down the straight towards the lake descent. Way too deep into the corner. Chris Braun overshoots it. He's going to lose both positions. It continues on side by side as Nick Facciolo manages to get by Briggs and picks both their pockets.
And we saw Patterson make contact with Briggs. That could have almost been a crash in itself. But Braun just got a little too greedy, hopped on the brakes as both of them backed out. for Descida do Lugar Real Posta, and that was insane. And a move there as Patty Patterson is sending more warning signs to Thomas Briggs and saying, hey, I'm here if you're gonna lag back off of this battle that just ended. But luckily for Braun, I think, Joe, he's not necessarily out of this quite yet, but that's a crucial mistake that could have sent him into P7, but now Facciolo holds it down.
Yeah, Facciolo made such great use of that whole situation, and he's now +2 because of it. Well, +2 from before. He's actually back where he started in 7th. Oh, but he overshoots the junction. He's off 4 wheels into the grass, and not just 1, 2, maybe even 3 spots are going to go ways. We're back with Grotto coming down the main stretch, and he's got Justin Sang trying to play defense. He's going to go even farther inside. Both of them pinched down to the bottom as they get slowed up. Here comes Leif Peterson, says, you guys can do what we just saw before on the screen. I'm going to do the same thing that Nick did.
I love, Joe, how you can never count out a driver from a battle, even if they fall back just a little bit, because as soon as they start the battle in front, then comes that third driver. Leif Peterson, in this case, a bit of a dive by Grotto. Almost made some rear-end contact to Justin Sang and sent him off the course, but they all stay single file. And boy, these battles are really starting to heat up. Now that they've gotten to halfway, I think at this point that they're starting to get closer to pit road strategy. They're starting to give it all they got, and it's bringing out a show. As here's Grotto again, Sang playing heavy defense.
A little bit wiser heads through that turn 4 this time for all 3 of them. Nobody going off course, nobody changing positions either, though, as they all held their ground. Been trying to keep an eye on Nistor's times, and it looks like he's consistently, pretty consistently in the low 40s. So let's see what these guys are doing, because now they've been battling Facciolo, Braun, Patterson, and whatnot. Yeah, last lap for all of them was pretty darn slow because all of the mucking about that they were doing. This is actually starting to look like it might work for the 17 car.
Yeah, that's true. He's going to gain a lot of positions, but obviously distance is the biggest factor in this show. The fact that he's so far back means that even though these lap times for the top 10 are starting to slow down a bit because they're battling so frequently and heavily, the fact that they're so far ahead of that number 17 car means that they come down pit road later, which they will, and we'll see it. It probably won't be enough to gain Nistor all that much time. It might be able to gain him some positions, but it won't be enough to drastically alter the trajectory of his race. And we watch again this battle inside the top 3, Sang still holding it against Grotto and Peterson. No moves right now. And there you see Amaru in the distance, who, by the way, Joe, has fallen off to 3.2 seconds back to your race leader.
Rafael just doesn't have the pace, but the good news is he's not really in a fight with Jesse Lyon. Now, we're going to take a look at what happened with Nick. This looks like the pass at first that he managed to get. And again, it started all the way back here up the main straight where those two in front started fighting between Braun and Briggs. They go wheel to wheel. A beautiful cutback, I have to say, from Braun. It just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, it didn't work, but it starts really here where they're side by side. Facciolo has the draft, first of all, but second of all, it just has the good run out of the Senna S. And instead of just going in the draft, he says, let me make a little peek. I'm going to make it 3 wide. But the good decision here by Briggs and Facciolo is that they both back out. They both hop on the brakes at the right time. They don't overstep. And then Braun does, and he gets off track. And then comes Patty Patterson out of absolutely nowhere. And then you'll see the mistake soon enough that Facciolo makes. But Facciolo, with an absolutely amazing pass, is just unfortunate that he made that mistake and has fallen back to 10th.
Ooh, Justin Sang just came in for a pit stop, and this looks to be a scheduled one. So we'll see the off track here when they come out of the junction. So a couple more corners. And I didn't quite see if he just understeered off, if he got loose or what. This will answer some questions here in a moment.
So far, nobody else, it looks like, on pit road. I was looking at Gregorato, Jenks, Robert Rose, Rich Minkler, all of them not coming in. Neither is Dale Green. And then Mark Nistor, we saw him make that spot up earlier, make that pit stop rather, as there was the mistake by Facciolo coming out of the final corner in Juncao. And then everybody else found their way by, and here's where Facciolo sits. So Sang, interestingly enough, Joe, the only driver to make that pit stop. I thought we might see some others come in with him, but I guess everyone else is just playing the long game right now.
And that definitely looked like understeer to me that sent Nick off course, and he's lost the track position. Does seem like track position means a whole lot more tonight than it did last night. There were so many great passes and so many great battles, and there are some good battles here, but it seems like many are having trouble getting it done.
Yeah, that's really true. And as we watch this battle continue to build up, and Thomas Briggs leading this group, we're going to see things develop very interestingly here. And I don't think anyone else is really coming in. But it's also funny to note as well, Joe, the exit out of the final corner and then that straightaway, Subido dos Boxes, it's kind of funny to see because they cut down on what is technically the pit road entry line, but they use it just to make the arc in the corner, not necessarily because they're coming in. So you might see every single lap them do that where they go underneath that line and then they just kind of back out right before that pit barrel enters the frame. It's kind of funny to see who comes in and who doesn't because it's really just a big guessing game. But as we cross the line again, nobody's heading for the pit lane this time.
Yeah, in the real world, they changed that, of course, with the iRacing curse shortly after they scanned this one. Robert Rose is now in, so there's one to follow up on Justin Sang for you. And now the pit entry actually has a lot more room to the inside to make it safer since that barrier isn't there to plow into at such high speeds, and you have to commit much sooner. But we check in with Leif Peterson and Grotto, the ones that were battling with Sang, who have not pitted in and have carried on. Sang is back out on course right now, but we don't have a full lap from him yet. Does look like Nistor had a couple bad laps, a 40.6 and a 40.7. That might undo some of the good work that he had done with those quicker laps.
That's true, and he's only gained one spot. He's only up to 15th. The only driver he was able to get around was Robert Rose in the 443 who came in. So again, the undercut in the very early one, as a matter of fact, it probably isn't good enough to gain spots that are going to be worthy of top 10 notice or even top 5. As Facciolo finds himself once again in kind of this third row seat, just watching the battle right in front of him. And Patty Patterson has been so aggressive, Joe, on the braking entry to many of the corners in this second sector. The Ese, the Pinarino, the Bico de Pato, many of those corners, Patterson is diving way on the brakes and diving super low to just let the drivers know that Patty is there. Looks like they're going to close up here on the straight, and none of them are going to come in this time by. So all just waiting, I guess, either for the leaders or for the end of their stint when their tank runs dry.
Yeah, Patty definitely looking a little more aggressive. Oh, he gets a touch from Chris Braun. That's going to actually check him up quite significantly. Facciolo might finally get one of those spots back, depending on what he decides to do here down the Retta Oposta. But looks like he didn't keep the run up himself, so he starts to fall back. And, we've had a problem with Andy Jenks in the first corner. He is off the circuit, and I'm not sure if he had help or not, but it looks like we got a replay to find out. Nobody around him. I'm going to guess this was a self-spin.
Yeah, just hopped on the curbs, and that car unsettled, and you'll watch it here. Typical entrance through Sena S. It just bobbled just a little bit and then unraveled right in front of Jenks' hands. And now going to fall a spot short. Dale Green going to the outside in Retta Oposta. And then you look at right now, back up to the front. Peterson still giving that charge to Grotto for P3.
Making sure that he can't let up here. Any little mistake, any drop in pace is going to make him pay dearly as they climb up the hill. This is for third position currently. We did have at least one other car fighting them. That was Justin Sang, who's already pitted a lap and a half ago. Last lap, 40.1 for him, which is a little slower than these two, honestly. So that might not work out. Remember, when they take the fuel, they're going to be just slightly slower because of that. A defensive line here from Logan down into the Senna S. Peterson didn't look like a serious attempt there, though.
And did not, but watch the battle here for P6 further behind them. Thomas Briggs under fire from Chris Braun, as there's a look at Jesse Line, who was easily pulled away from the field. There's the battle between Briggs and Braun in turn one. Patty Patterson and Facciolo once again watching the action, and that was a huge door shut by Briggs. Make sure that Braun did not have the space coming out into the Retta Oposta. And here's Facciolo with a nice run on Patterson, looking for 8th.
Yeah, that was a very poor run from Patterson. Facciolo around the outside. Oh no, Patterson overshoots, and he's going to go a little deep. Nick is going to be able to cut back. Can he finish the job, though? He's on the inside, down through turn 5, but what about in the horseshoe? He isn't completely past. He might be able to cut down if he wants to be aggressive. He leaves the door open, and that's job done.
You probably could not fit a sheet of paper through the distance between Patterson's front bumper and Peterson's rear bumper in a turn 1. Or rather into Reta Oposta, and then down to the next corner. That was really, really close between those two. Patterson absolutely sending it, but Facciolo finding a way to get to 8th. And Braun still no attempt to get back on Briggs. I think just waiting for the final corner and the front straightaway to make a move, but just holding on for right now.
It's been interesting watching some of these moves. I'm starting to notice a pattern here, Kenny. It feels like if you're the aggressor, you tend to actually lose the position. You don't make the overtake, and the driver behind pounces immediately.
Yeah, that's true, because, I mean, the over-aggression is really the key. You're seeing them dive in, and then all of a sudden they exit the corner with, like, no momentum, and it really hurts them at the end. As here's Patty Patterson, ducked in at the last second, so Patterson heading for pit road, all by the 29's lonesome. We don't see anyone else behind coming in for pit road. Gregorado's going to stay out for this lap, so Gregorado will take that advantage. Obviously, Justin Sang, we saw him come in about a couple of laps earlier, so he'll take that spot away. Interestingly enough, we're just seeing one-by-one pit road action, Joe. We're not really seeing more than one or more than 2 cars going at the same time, as Briggs under fire from Peterson, or rather Braun again.
And remember, Nistor was one that was racing with that Patterson group. And oh my goodness, actually, he's way beyond Patterson. He looks like he has jumped him by about 2 seconds here.
Yeah, Nistor's going to grow to P12 right now. And Patterson with an 18.2 second stop. Now for Nistor, it was way quicker at 17.8. And then for Sang, even quicker at a 15.7. So it's all depending on stops. And Patterson with one of the slowest ones we've seen all night long. As here's Braun again. Facciolo, some contact on the outside. That could have been dearly close. Facciolo falls back. And Braun now has a little bit of elbow room once more.
Yeah, and again, it seemed like that was either an attack or defense. Take your pick from Braun down into the duck spill as he covered that inside line, but it was also maybe trying to get his nose under on Briggs. Oh, Peterson in a fight with Grotto here, but he isn't able to get past him quite yet, as it looks like Grotto will cover him off once again. And, oh, Nick Facciolo in a very late call to enter pit lane, and he almost clipped the barrier.
Yeah, really close. Same thing that Patty Patterson did about a lap ago. It looked like they were staying out and then just made that quick jerk to the left. And now that's a pit stop here for Nick Facciolo. We'll see where Justin Sang gets out in all of this. As Sang will actually gain that spot, and we'll get to P9. And still waiting again, as everyone else still yet to pit, from P8 all the way to your race leader, Jesse Line. And look back at the battle for 3rd. Peterson has been there and has been setting some closer laps to Grotto. A little bit slower last time by, but it's just been close enough to keep Grotto on his toes. It's been a really great battle between these two so far.
Absolutely. We're going to have multiple eyes here in a moment, because Facciolo is coming out directly beside Nistor, who is barely going to get ahead of him after the pit stop. So it worked out for both the cars, but a lot less for Nick in comparison. There you can see the gap between them is barely 0.3.
And this is going to be some really good opportunity for Nick Facciolo, because he's going to get the draft. He does have that pit stop, so fresh out of pit road. We know how quick Facciolo is with raw pace as he looks to the inside, has to back out immediately, though. We're probably going to look at a pass for P11, probably out of Juncao, and that last corner heading for Subida dos Boxes. But Facciolo has been diving deep on the brakes, just way better right now. And they've also got a car behind them. That's Dale Green in the 250, trapped in 13th as it stands. So Facciolo still waiting, biding his time, not going to be too aggressive and cause an incident or any sort of thing like that. Just going to stay behind Nistor and wait for that opportunity to come about.
To Mark's credit, he was more than a second slower. In fact, it was almost 2 seconds slower in the pit stop compared to Nick. So Nick actually is only with him because he had a lightning fast stop out there and was able to emerge just about equal. Looks like Cowley has pitted in, we saw on screen briefly as we come back to the battle for P3 that rages on. Neither have pitted in yet, but now they're starting to get to the end of that pit window, maybe about 3 or 4 more laps, and then pretty much everybody is going to have to stop in for fuel.
And that's true. Leif Peterson coming off of a rough race at Circuit Spa Francorchamps, where he came home in 22nd out of the 23 cars that made that race. And Logan Grotto was not in the activities at Spa. And just coming back here as Chris Braun attacks here once again on Thomas Briggs. So 2 dynamic duos, Joe, that we're seeing in this field. Battle for 3rd and then this battle for 5th. And somewhat of an awkward corner there for Briggs. Is going to bring Braun in again. Have a better arc through the corner, backed out just a little bit. It's just a game of cat and mouse right now, and a better exit again for Braun. Tries to look on the inside, but once more that 4 car shuts the door.
Oh, that was mighty close between them. Brave stuff, but they obviously have a lot of respect between the pair of them and know exactly where to place the car. Here we go again. Grotto and Amorim, this time a lot farther alongside, or for Grotto and Peterson, I should say. Peterson and the red, white, and blue actually manages to hold on, but he's going to be pinched in on the second half a little bit. No, he gets a good exit here. It carries on door to door as they hit the Red Pasta.
And Grotto was really wide at the exit at turn 2, was hugging that curb and really did not have momentum, as here is Thomas Briggs checking it down to pit road. Nobody else coming in as Grotto holds off Peterson still onto the left-hander, and he's got the spot back.
Wow, tenacity there from the number 12 machine. Even after he was fully overtaken, came right back at him and took the spot back. But the more they fight, the more they're going to find themselves vulnerable to Justin Sang, who is running on his own. Very consistent laps, 39.9, 39.5, 39.7, 39.9. He is rifling them off.
Yeah, he really is. Consistency at its highest peak. And there's Briggs coming out of pit road. And we're still, again, awaiting for a majority of the field to come in for service at around 17 minutes left in this race, roughly 11 laps, as here is the exit by Thomas Briggs. Is actually going to be in line with Paddy Patterson for P12. So maybe things could build up between these two. And the same could be said for Facciolo and Nistor, who, Joe, that battle hasn't settled at all. Facciolo, despite being faster with raw pace throughout most of the event, still struggling to get by the 17.
Watching here as Nistor holds him at bay in that Martini livery down into the infield section once again. And both Grotto and Peterson just pitted in. So it looks like both of them about even attacking the cones. So maybe it'll come down to who is in their stall. Looks like Lyon, Amorim, all the leaders now pitting.
And largest group we've seen coming in for pit road. It looks like Chris Braun is also heading in for the stall. The only one to stay out will, of course, be Justin Sang, who already pitted. Enrico Gregorato made a pretty late call to come in off the final corner. Bit of a mistake there by Nistor. Facciolo can take advantage, but cannot do it. Just a little bit too far behind and did not gain enough momentum. Now, funny thing is, we'll see where Sang and company get out in the midst of the competition. Sang actually not too far behind Amorim for second. Jesse Lyon's still going to hold on to the lead, no doubt about it, by 6.5 seconds almost, but great stuff by Sang on this undercut.
Yeah, that worked out beautifully for him. He is well clear of Grotto and Peterson by, 4 seconds currently. So he took a huge chunk out of them as they were squabbling amongst each other. And speaking of squabbling, this still just will not go away between Nistor and Facciolo. And the more they fight, the more Braun is reeling them in lap by lap.
Well, I guess I was completely wrong about Mark Nistor. Didn't say that he was going to gain as much of an advantage by undercutting so severely when he pitted at around, I'd say, lap 12, 13. I guess he's now up into the top 10. So some good points on the line for Mark Nistor here in the 17, and still being hunted by Nick Facciolo. It's just a matter of he cannot find his way by it. And on the minimal opportunities where you do find a pass opportunity, whether it's out of it or Polestar, or whether it's going into turn 1 in the Senna S's, Facciolo just hasn't been there. So it's just really been a chokehold for that 717. He knows he's faster, no doubt about it. It's just a matter of he cannot get around, and that's going to bring more pressure once Braun starts to get closer into the picture.
Also, don't need to go there, but a quick mention. I was double checking on Jesse Lyon. if he takes this win, it's his first of Series 10. So this could be a very decisive moment for him if he can hold on to what is a comfortable lead at this stage and bring it home. But it's not comfortable for Nistor. He's having to play defense for quite some time. We're going to hop on board the helmet of Nick Facciolo once again down the front stretch. He's got a big toe. He's reeling him in pretty quickly as he try and dive it down to the first corner. Shows himself a little bit. There it is, down to the apex. Can he take it away and get it woed up in time? Yes, he can. Smooth move from the 717.
Smooth operator, the 717. Chris Braun is around, though, right behind them, exiting turn 2. Oh boy, that's a tough mistake, and maybe the first we see out of Braun really all night long, apart from that overshoot in one of the corners. Braun just lost the rear end and found his way around. That's going to really hurt his track position, falling back to 12th.
Yeah, that is a real shame for him. He was running in such a good spot up to that point, weaving back and forth here. The battle just will not die. Nistor, though, behind Facciolo after seeing that one done. Can he pull the same move right back on him? Or is he going to have to get tricky somewhere? Well, if he's off the apex like that, he won't be able to be on him very long.
Well, if you're Facciolo here, Joe, you need to be consistent. You need to be calm. You do not want to either get too complacent or too over-aggressive to try and pull away, because you'll see that mentally from drivers where they try so hard to get a car right in front of them to make that pass, and as soon as they do, they are hell-bent on growing the gap and making sure they keep that other driver at bay. But in the way, they can make some mistakes that just reels the driver back in the mix. Good news for Facciolo. He's able to open things up at about, I'd say, 7/10 of a second to keep Nistor from drafting on him going into turn 1. But Facciolo needs to be very careful. He's a very fast car. He's been clean all night. Last thing you need is to make a mistake trying to pull away.
Now that we've got a chance to breathe and some of the battles have abated, at least for the moment, I was looking up and down the timing tower. We've had a lot bigger losers than we've had winners, because the hardest chargers are tied with 2 positions gained. That's Cowley and Briggs. Other than that, there's not many that have moved forward. It's just Lee Peterson, who's lost 3, and poor Chris Braun with his big slip up. He is now down 6 positions.
Yeah, we really haven't seen that much fluctuation throughout this field. And even then, you look at your top 3. Jesse Lyons started on pole. He's still in the race lead. Rafael Amorim started 3rd. It's only +1 to 2nd. Justin Sang started in 4th and gained 1 to be in P3. So it just, I guess with the minimal car count at 17 tonight, not much opportunity for big movers to be up in this field. And for those who are already quick, they're already at the front. So there's nothing they can gain when they're already up here. So it's just been a matter of them holding on to their gaps and just trying to be as consistent as possible. I will say, though, that Sang has been putting some good laps on Amorim the last couple of times by. As they crossed the line last, it was a 139.7 for Sang, 139.9 for Amorim, and we'll cross the line again and see where that difference lies. But it's around 1.2 seconds in a gap between these two, and once more, looks like Sang is faster, 139.5 compared to Amorim's 139.62. So maybe we see a battle for second after all.
By the way, I was able to look through the results as well. It's not only going to be Lyons' first win of Series 10, his first podium. He's at a couple 4th places, but just can't seem to crack that last barrier. And I don't know if we mentioned it, but Andy Jenks had a bit of an off, and looks like he's got the car going, but he's been struggling at the back of the field. That's the 2nd time today we've seen him leave the course.
Yeah, he's had a troublesome night here from Interlagos. But back to the point about Jesse Lyon, and the one thing that he can do tonight as well, Joe, if he wins this race, is possibly take over 4th in the standings over Christopher Pais. Both of them are not too far behind. Lyon is about 52 points behind them prior to the green flag tonight from Interlagos. So if Lyon can dominate like he's been doing so far and cap it off with a race win, his first of Series 10, it's going to amplify his momentum going into the next race and possibly get him closer to top 4 fighting in the point standings.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. He's really got to grab this with both hands as we watch that fight. Oh, well, we got a closer fight right here. Patterson on Briggs, and he is hassling him at every single corner here. If Patterson gets his spot, he's going to be our hardest charger. He's going to look for it, but he can't get that third position quite yet. This is the battle for P9 currently between this pair.
And Patterson continues that strategy where he just dives on the bottom on these heavy braking corners and tries to scare the driver in front of him. Now, that really hasn't worked all too much, but Patterson is just sending the shots every now and then, and this is a fantastic exit out of Juncao and then Subido dos Boxes. He's going to be there by the time they get to turn one. He's got the draft on the neon yellow Briggs machine. We'll go to the outside or inside. Briggs is playing defense. No choice but for Patterson to go up top, side by side for P9 into turn one, and a bit of contact.
Oh, boy, that was getting awful close, and that is going to force Patterson way wide up into the Senna S. So there goes that opportunity. Now it's getting even more aggressive as we jump back to Sang once again. What a run it's been from this 188, not just with him using that very strategic undercut, but he's now been faster than Amorim consistently over multiple laps here and is within striking range, but he's running out of time. We've only got maybe about 6 more laps left here.
Yeah, we saw Sang with that undercut there, a really good decision because he's burning off more fuel. The car's getting lighter. It's getting faster with each lap, and he continues to put on better times than Amorim, who's starting to struggle and getting laps inside the 140.4s now as he crossed the line last. So out of the final corner, Sang is just growing bigger and bigger in that rear view mirror, and Sang is really trying his hardest to pick up from that last race at Spa where he came home in 21st, struggled in that race. And now this is really going to be a big rebound with these GT4s. Not going to get Amorim, at least this time through turn one, but he's there, he's approaching, so you got to watch out if you're that number 14.
Yeah, based on the forward progress that 188 car has been making, he's definitely got to keep his eye on the mirror at least a little bit here. Make sure he doesn't get snookered late in the race. Might not be the battle for the win, but like we said, so many valuable points on the table here today that the drivers do not want to flounder. Mark Nistor checking that back in with him in the fight with Nick Facciolo for 7th position. Couldn't quite get side by side this time into the Senna S, but based on what they've been doing before, I have no doubt this will get exciting again.
Yeah, probably will. And as I'm looking through the charts, it looks like 4 drivers in this race. Jesse Lyon, Nick Facciolo, looks like Patty Patterson, and the driver in 13th, Robert Rose, all are in the places where they started this race, but Nisser could change things with Facciolo here. We've seen that number 17 be rather quick and got some good drafters. Here's Patterson again underneath Thomas Briggs, although that door is going to get shut once more, and Briggs has really played some solid defense here. And that Volt car going to hold on for now. Patterson with another dive deep into the corner. Not going to work for the number 29. And so far, Joe, they're also bringing in the 771, Enrico Gregorato, that green and gray car behind this group. He might gain some positions too to P9.
Yeah, we have to remember he was the one that had an off on the, I think it was the first lap or second lap, somewhere around there, clipped the wall, and he's actually +1 from where he started on the grid. So the Mamba car has shimmied his way forward and is now just about to crack the top 10, especially if these two keep fighting as hard as they are. That's going to make life easier for him.
And you need a mistake out of Briggs or Patterson here to bring Gregorato, although he's got the draft nonetheless, and off of this long straightaway, he's about half a second from Patterson, so it could just make this a 3-car battle before it's all said and done. I'm watching back at the battle for second. Sang is inside 2/10 of a second to Amarimas. Here's Patterson on the outside of Briggs. 4P number 9. Can Patterson get it into turn 1? Going to outbreak the 4. It's going to even out, and Briggs again will have the advantage going to turn 2.
Oh, very wide line for Patterson coming out of the last part of the chicane. Enrico Gregorato is there to pick it up. If he can just execute, he's going to be on the wrong side. If he breaks deeper, maybe he could finish this one up, get that top 10 spot. He's got a nose well ahead. Under braking, very strong for Patty. Manages to keep it out on the apex, only just though. He was about a foot wide on that one, and that edges Enrico to the outside of the track.
He could have used that momentum too on the outside lane, but just did not, and did not get to the gas soon enough, and Patterson's going to hold on with the braking advantage here going into La Ranjina and going into the SA and of course the Pinheirino. So Patterson is going to hold on, and that's a good signing for Thomas Briggs. You saw that pressure and you're like, Whew, okay, I can hold on to where I'm at right now. 4.5 minutes left. Let me stay where I'm at in P9. As here's Justin Sang approaching quickly on Rafael Amorim. A beautiful exit through turn 15. Could this be the pass for P2 into turn 1?
Rafael covers off the inside there, coming down into turn 1. He knew very quickly what was happening here, hanging around the outside, but it's going to be hard to keep the speed on the inside of the second part. Oh, a little bobble there out of Amorim. This gives another breath of life to Justin Sang. If he dares try and chuck it up the inside, no, looks like another cover down to the bottom for Rafael as he forces him the long way around at every opportunity he can. Breaks much deeper. Can he maybe come back underneath him? Once again, just goes way wide, does Rafael Amorim.
I went a little too slow there at the entrance of the corner because he could have easily had that crossover. Amorim just overstepped. And unfortunately, Sang's going to have to try again. Battle for fourth. Peterson and Grotto continue to go at it, this time through the windy section. Sector 2 and Sector 3. Grotto finds a way through, and the 12 car stays in fourth.
So Peterson's going to have to try again later, but time is running out. We're getting close to the 2 to go marker here. Watching with Justin Sang, trying to force that car to cover the inside, maybe open up the door on the exit somewhere, but it's not happening out of the duck spill. Jesse Lyon, let's see, is he going to get to the... Yes, he will get the 2 to go marker as he crosses the line here in a second.
And we do know here for Justin Sang, you do not want to be too aggressive. We know that time is running out. You've got 3 minutes left. Yes, this race is coming down to a close, but you know naturally you are so much faster than that 14. You can make this pass happen without having to either sacrifice your race car or sacrifice anything. As here's another big move off of the draft. Sang is going to swing to the outside in turn 1. This time in a less aggressive approach, not diving it in, but looking for a crossover on Amorim. That's going to work to turn 2.
Oh, but his momentum blunted a little bit. He has to lift as the unique layout of these first 3 turns just does not give him the chance he was looking for. So stays in P3. Also worth noting that Sang is on, or Amorim's on 12 incidents, and Sang is on 11. That's not super far up there, but they can ill afford a car contact.
Yeah, they cannot. And then when you get that 17 exit to drive through a penalty, you do not want that to severely alter your race, especially not now. You could have it midway, you could have it earlier in the race and still recover, but right now, with about 1.5 minutes almost left in the final 2 laps of this race, you cannot have that go down to your detriment. Sang is really there. It's just a matter of putting that last piece together and finding this pass through Bico de Pato. Can he get through it? No, he can't. But again, he's probably looking at Juncao, that final corner, and to be there, those boxes, he's going to look for that draft move into turn 1.
There you can see Sang in the brown and black and white there, just behind Rafael Amorim. Oh, that was an excellent exit, and they're going to get the white flag as they cross the line here, so it is now or never.
Yeah, Jesse Lyon all but confirming this victory. The largest gap we've seen all night long, Joe, at around 14.2 seconds and counting. This race is easily in Lyon's hands unless he makes a huge mistake. But this fight for second continues on. Sang on the outside. Can he make the move into turn 1? Not yet. We'll look for a crossover into turn 2. Almost a bit of contact.
Once again, just can't seem to get the timing right on the over-under move, and Sang is stuck in that 3rd position. He's got a couple other opportunities if he stays tight to the rear bumper of that 14 machine. Rafael knows it. He covers him. Now he comes back to the racing line and tries to open it up, and that will actually do him a lot better, although he goes way wide off of turn 4.
And he's been trying that crossover to get an early braking zone and then a better exit off of the corner, but Sang has not been able to take opportunity nor advantage of that. He's faster everywhere else, but that corner is really where he struggled. Sang is only losing time here. Amorim is right on the brink of losing P2, heading to the final corners through Medgullo and into Juncao. Well, this is going to be the Bico de Pato and then Medgullo. But this is really close for Sang. He's going to dive on the inside, then swing up high, look for a crossover. But time is there. It's running out. Sang needs to do something now.
And bad news for Peterson fans. He has had a spin out of the late descent and has lost a number of positions. This man up at the front, Jesse Lyon, takes a dominant win, his first of Series 10 here at Interlagos. Meanwhile, behind him, it's going to be a drag race to the line, and Sang's got the inside. He's got the shorter run. This is what he's been looking for. Has he timed this to perfection? It's going to be nose to nose as they cross the line. Has he got enough? Right down to it. There's the line. And Sang's done it. Barely ahead of him by 14 thousandths of a second.
Wow. What a move by Sang in the last corner of the last lap. Facciolo not in reach of Mark Nister for 7th. Now we've seen a great fight between those two, and that settles with Nister at the largest undercut of the night, pitting so long ago, 24 laps ago on lap 13. And Nister ends up with the spot, and there's Thomas Briggs and Paddy Patterson going side by side. Briggs holds on to 9th, and here's a nice battle that's not over quite yet as Rich Minkler under fire from Robert Rose.
Yep, a little bit farther down here for 13th and 14th position. I don't think that Rose has got enough of a slipstream, so he is going to have to stay put there in P14. Jenks and Green could be our last two, and only one DNF today in Ian Simon. So that'll take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Break a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, as we saw quite a finish for second, but up at the front, Jesse Lyon wound up taking the win by a whopping 16 seconds. Just basically grabbed this one by the scruff of the neck. Justin Sang barely beat Amaram right to the end. Rafael was in second place pretty much this whole race, except for that last lap. Logan Grotto was P4 as Ryan Cowley finished in 5th. Leif Peterson, because of his spin, fell down to 6th after he started on the front row. Nistor was 7th, and Facciolo finished 8th as Thomas Briggs finished P9, and Patterson was 10th.
Enrico Gregorato in the 771 is the first one outside of the top 10 to come home in 11th. Chris Braun had a mistake in a spin coming out of turn 2 earlier in the race and drops him back to P12. 13th will go to the 16 car of Rich Minkler. Robert Rose is P14. Andy Jenks in 15th. Dale Green in the 250 is 16th. And our only DNF of the night, Ian Simon in the 87, finishes 17th after retiring from the race early.
It looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Jesse Lyon. Jesse, congratulations. You spent pretty much all of Series 10 up to this point on the outside looking in on the podium. And when you finally do it, you do it on the top step by a monster 16 seconds. That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what Raph was, if he was fuel saving or not, so I just kept trying to do hot laps because I just threw the fuel saving idea out the window. So coming out 16 seconds ahead was kind of a shocker to me.
Now, in the club race, we heard the winner talk about how he had to actually save a little bit of tire because he found his overheating. Now, you guys' track never got as hot as theirs. What were you feeling? Did the tires go away for you at all, or was it pretty comfortable?
The front right gets beat really bad in this race, so I took a front right at the pit stop. It was terrible though. Like 2 laps before the pit stop, it gave out every time I turned to the left. So I couldn't save it anymore, so I just had to go ahead and take it. I think you could get away with 2 tires for free, but I just went with 1.
Ah, interesting. So you did an even more unique solution here with the single tire. After this one, of course, we're heading off to Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time, which is going to be another Grand Prix style track. Do you feel like you can back this one up?
I'm going to try. I was prepared to see Wyatt here tonight, and he didn't come, so I was a little disappointed. But I am going to keep trying to get onto the podium in the standings. And Hockenheim is definitely going to be a tough track for me, especially in the GT3R. But I'm just going to put in some more laps and keep trying.
That's all you can do sometimes. But again,
Yeah.
Congratulations. Who helped put you in victory lane?
Well, Robbie definitely helped me. Robbie Prescott, he's with Satellite Racing with me, and he helped spot me this time around. So he's been a great help and a great support member throughout the entire series. Also, I'd like to thank my wife because she's been a huge support through all of this, all of the sim racing stuff, and Daniel Nix and everyone else at Phoenix Racing too.
Again, that was Jesse Lyon, our winner here today in the pro class, and he was followed by Justin saying just barely as Kenny has caught up with him.
Justin Sang comes home in second off of the pass on Rafael Amarim, the last lap, last corner. Let's talk about that first of all, Justin. That unbelievable pass. You were putting pressure on him through those final couple of laps. What was going through your mind, and give us your perspective of all that?
Yeah, I was basically taking advantage of the off tracks I saved so I could get like a good exit onto the main straight. And he also made a mistake, so I got a good run. I was the last lap, was I'm gonna stick it inside no matter what, and it worked out.
That's full send mode, last lap, last corner, but it works out for you. And I have to imagine, I mean, this is a big turnaround from the last race at Circus Spa-Francorchamps, where you came home, you struggled to finish in 21st in that race, to come home second now at Interlagos. How good does that feel to gain some momentum back on your side and have a good finish tonight?
I mean, I'm just trying to do it race by race. I don't think I'm in the championship. So, I mean, Spa was just lack of concentration for me. But yeah, always good to finish on the podium with these guys.
And now we head off to Germany. Next time we see this pro class with the 911 GT3R, any thoughts or any expectations about what to expect from Hockenheim?
I like that track, but GT3 is not my best. But I try my best. A lot of these guys are super quick in the GT3 cars, but maybe some practice would help.
Well, nonetheless, a fantastic finish and a great race overall put together here from Interlagos. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank for making tonight's run possible?
I want to thank the sponsor, Porsche Exchange, and the PCA guys that set up all the sessions, the admin and stuff like that. That's it. Thanks.
On a great race, Justin. Thank you so much. On behalf of our entire team, congratulations on P2, and we'll see you then at Hockenheim. Joe Peak, that was Justin Sang, who brings home the 188 car in P2. We'll talk to Rafael Amarim, the driver who comes home in third.
Indeed, and was just shy of a second place. Rafael, were you a bit surprised that Justin suddenly showed up there at the end?
Yeah, he had a great pace and a great strategy. He was really smart opening earlier, and I was impressed by how much time he gained, like in the pit cycle. And I've made a mistake. I didn't change the right front, so my tires were just done in the end. So I kind of knew it was just going to be a matter of time for him to get me because it's getting harder and harder to keep it on track, and he done it at the last possible time. So yeah, great race, a great finish. Pretty happy with it, and had a lot of fun.
Well, it looked like a lot of fun, and honestly, a big credit on that defense. How long you held him off. You were putting on quite a show there. Talk about you versus Jesse Lyon, though. It looked like he just kind of had the legs on you. Was that part of that due to not changing the tire, or was that more than that?
No, I think he just had better pace. I tried keeping up with him in the beginning. I was pushing really hard, and he just had better pace. Congrats to Jesse, great race, and he was unbeatable.
Now, unfortunately, you had to miss a couple there. Glad to see you back. Are you going to be around for any of the remaining races?
I hope so. We'll see how work goes, but hope you should make the last few ones and maybe fight for the. I don't know where I'm in the championship, but I think I could probably still make my top 5. So hoping for a good position there.
Well, at the very least, you can take heart in knowing that every time you have been able to attend, you've been on the podium. So congratulations, sir.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was Rafael Amram, your third place finisher, and that's going to close us out. So make sure and join us here, of course, next Wednesday, May 17th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back for the sport class. We'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, for Series 10. That includes the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. A big thanks goes out to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thank you to our team tonight, Kenneth, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.